You're wasting money on these bike parts, and here's what you should be buying instead. People always say that buying the bike is the cheap part, and us cyclists know that there's always some other shiny object that we're looking at buying. Sometimes they're worth it, sometimes they're not. And I think that a lot of the time people are buying the expensive item when really you don't need it just yet. So let's dive straight into it, but make sure you stick around until the end because the final one is the most important. The first one, which is probably the most obvious, is spending heaps of money on things that might save you like 5 or 10 grams here or there. Something like buying a carbon fiber crankset. I know that carbon fiber is awesome and it's lightweight and it's stiff and it's all these cool things, but you can buy a crankset for about $80 and you can also buy a crankset for over $1,000. Is there much of a difference between the two? At my level of cycling, probably not. But if you're perhaps in the Tour de France racing, because you're given the components, you don't have to pay for them, maybe you might notice a bit of a difference. But I think that I see this really often. People are buying these crazy expensive upgrades for their bike when really we're saving a couple of grams here or there. You can save a couple of grams by just taking the valve caps off your bike. So if you have to spend thousands of dollars to get that same weight saving, cost-wise, I don't think it's always worth it. Some of the things that I see people spending lots of money on and upgrading that might not necessarily be worth it could be the carbon fiber cranks, or maybe you're going up to carbon fiber water bottle holders. It's gonna save you a gram, maybe 2 grams if it's between 2 different water bottle holders. A lot of money, but not a massive upgrade. Sometimes I see people upgrading things like the stem on their bike. Changing the stem can make the ride feel a little bit more comfortable, but the stem that you've got at the moment might also be really good. So that money could be spent on perhaps new tires or something like that, a consumable part that you're gonna notice a bigger upgrade from. So what I'm saying here is sometimes you don't need to spend thousands of dollars to get tiny little weight savings here and there. You might be able to get it for a fraction of the cost if we looked at a slightly different product. But most people, myself included, are typically buying medium weight, but really high quality components. And this is the sweet spot for most cyclists. You're gonna get the best bang for your buck. The next thing that I see some people upgrading that you might not necessarily need is racing tires. These racing tires are amazing because they're fast rolling, but the trade-off for fast rolling is more puncture prone. So if you're doing lots of riding and maybe you're doing a Grand Fondo and you don't have any particular race that you're sort of doing that day, maybe you don't necessarily need to have the lightweight racing tires. Sometimes they're incredibly thin. Thin is good because it's fast, but it's bad because it's more prone to getting a puncture. So I would rather have a slightly stronger casing tire so that I don't have to stop on the side of the road and try and fix it. Each to their own. Sometimes they feel like a good bit of fun, but it might not be an upgrade that you need to consider just yet. From what I've seen, racing tires tend to be about 50% more expensive than just a typical everyday tire. Most manufacturers will do their typical everyday tire and then they'll do a racing version of it. Looks very similar. To the naked eye, it almost looks identical, except there might be a little logo change. But what's happening inside the tire could be quite different. Maybe there's a Kevlar belt in the normal one, and maybe there's no Kevlar belt in the racing one, or something along those lines. Hey guys, sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to quickly mention that YouTube sent us a message recently saying that 94% of people watching these videos haven't subscribed yet. So I just wanted to quickly say that we have tens of thousands of dollars worth of value in these videos and we're giving it all to you for free. So if it is something that you appreciate and you want to help our small business succeed, I'd love it if you could hit that subscribe button down below. Anyway, let's get back to the video. And in addition to that, the racing tires tend to be a little bit softer, which means that they're going to wear out a little bit faster. Because you want that high performance, you might have to wear through the tires a little bit faster. For example, the time that it takes you to wear through one racing tire, you might only get halfway through the life of your normal everyday tire. So cost per use, you're paying less money for the normal tire and it lasts twice as long as the racing tire, so it might work out significantly better. Mid-tier tires tend to have a really good balance of performance, puncture protection, and value. So this is where most cyclists should be spending their money rather than the super expensive stuff. The next thing that I see is some people are upgrading parts of their bike because they look cool before actually making sure that the bike is nice and safe and it's a worthwhile upgrade. Some of the first things that come to mind are anything carbon fiber. Sometimes people get carbon fiber water bottle holders because they look cool. A normal plastic water bottle holder is about $10, whereas a carbon fiber one could easily cost you $100, or depending on brand, $150. There is almost no difference between these two, except one's plastic and one's carbon fiber, but the amount of material that we have there is so small and so thin that we're saving 1 or 2 grams, which really is not a whole lot. What I'm getting at here is that sometimes people upgrade things because they look cool. Their bike might not be working very well. It might not be very safe just yet. Maybe the tires are worn out, the chain's worn out, it hasn't had a service for 2 years, that kind of thing. So splashing money on upgrades rather than preventative maintenance. Sometimes I even see people replacing the bolts on their bike with titanium bolts. Titanium is significantly more expensive than steel and aluminium. So replacing those bolts could be an incredibly costly upgrade with little to no benefit at all. But it looks cool, but it doesn't really bring any benefit. So it could be perhaps, in my mind, a waste of money other than looking cool. And I know that we all want our bike to look cool, but the point I'm getting at here is that it might be better to spend some of that money on preventative maintenance rather than upgrades. So really what I'm saying is try and focus on function over form. Sometimes I see people upgrading parts of their drivetrain, the chain rings or the cassette. If you have a Shimano 105 bike, for example, and you put a Shimano Dura Ace cassette on there, which is 2 levels up, it's a really expensive cassette. A 105 cassette's maybe $80 and a Dura Ace cassette's maybe $450 or $500. Huge upgrade, but you're probably not going to notice it on a Shimano 105 bike. So I don't think that would be the smartest way of spending our money, because we could get more than 4 or 5 105 cassettes for what we could 1 Dura Ace cassette. So you could literally wear through it 4 or 5 times before it's even cost effective. So sometimes you don't necessarily need to spend all the money on replacing consumable parts as well. The chain, I think you can always spend a bit of money on the chain. I always like to go on Ultegra level or above, because I think they do actually last longer because there's a bit more steel in there. But in regards to the cassette, I don't think you need to spend 5x the amount of money on a consumable part. So instead of spending that money on a super expensive part like a cassette, like a $500 upgrade, the girl math in my head could say that you could spend that $500 somewhere else and you've pretty much just saved a bunch of money. We've actually done a video further back on our YouTube channel about a few of the upgrades that I think are actually worth their money. But one of the favorite things that I mentioned in that video was upgrading to a set of aero carbon handlebars, kind of like this one here. Not only do they look cool, but they also feel a little bit more comfortable in your hand because it's a flat top here. So rather than buying a $500 cassette, I would rather spend $500 towards some new handlebars. Sometimes I see people trying to chase little watts here and there and tiny little weight savings here and there. A common one that I see are these ceramic speed jockey wheels, which is an oversized pulley wheel, which means the chain's bending less, which means you're saving watts here and there. I understand that it will help you save watts. So if you're doing a long bike race and you're trying to save a couple watts so you can push a little bit harder, it does make sense. But this is something like a $700 or $800 upgrade. As a coffee shop rider, I'm not going to notice the weight saving there or the watt saving there. But if you're a triathlete and you've been doing all your training and everything, you might notice it. So maybe it's a bit more suited up your rally. But I think for most of the people watching this video, this would be almost overkill for the type of riding that we are doing. Loosely tied with the bearings that are in the jockey wheels are the bottom bracket bearings. You can get different qualities of bottom bracket bearing. The bottom bracket is the bearing that allows the cranks to spin, that allows you to drive the bike forward. You can get an $80 bottom bracket, but you can also get an $800 bottom bracket. I really think that there's not a huge difference between the two. In the same sense as this, with the small watt saving, it's not going to make a massive difference. If you're just riding to the coffee shop, if you were to spend $500 on a bottom bracket, I genuinely don't think you would notice a difference if you didn't put it in yourself and spin the cranks yourself. If you're feeling it in your feet, it might be something that you don't quite notice. So I think that money could be better spent elsewhere. What I'm kind of saying here is if you're considering upgrading bearings on your bike, for the amount of watt saving that you're going to get, 2 watts here, 3 watts there, if you were to spend that same money on getting your bike serviced so it's in tip-top shape and it's all performing quite well, or perhaps on a gym membership or a trainer, the amount of watts that you're going to sort of increase there, as in you're going to get stronger and get better, that might outweigh the amount of sort of watts you're going to save when you move to these ceramic bearings. So yeah, you'll probably get a better bang for your buck if you just got a little bit stronger. And the final thing, the most important thing, is that I sometimes see people spending money on upgrades and accessories before getting comfortable on their bike. One of the most important things that I think when I'm out riding my bike is making sure that I've got nice, comfortable clothes on. especially if I'm going for a long bike ride, I want to make sure that I'm wearing those padded shorts because it makes the ride so much more comfortable. I would much rather have comfortable padded shorts than a lightweight water bottle cage, for example. Although it might be a similar amount of money to buy two carbon fiber bottle cages versus one really nice comfortable set of padded shorts or Nicks, I'm totally gonna go down the padded short route every single time. And I think it's the same deal with any item of clothing. We can talk about getting a nice fitting helmet and nice fitting shoes, carbon fiber sole versus plastic sole, that kind of thing. Making sure that you get something that fits and works properly is so much more important. And on that, we actually did a video further back on our YouTube channel about how to get the right helmet for you. So you might appreciate that one as well if you're unsure about what helmet you need now. The jerseys are super important as well. When we're cycling, we tend to wear skin tight lycra, which is sort of tucked up against your body. That means that it's not going to be flapping around in the wind like a flag as you're riding along. And with the padded shorts, we tend not to have pockets in them because they're skin tight up against your body. So you can't put your phone in your pocket. But the jerseys have pockets around on your back here, so you can fit all the different things that you need that you'd normally have in your pockets, but on your back, on the back of your shirt instead. So what I'm saying here is feeling comfortable on the bike and having correct fitting clothes and the right sort of outfit is far more important than having the fancy upgrades. It will improve your riding experience more than any part ever can. Just as a quick disclaimer here as well to throw in at the end of the video, I'm not saying that any of these upgrades that we've talked about are bad. I'm talking more about being cost effective. If you were to spend $80 here or $80 there, which one would get you a better bang for buck? That's more what today's video is about. Would you spend $600 on a bearing, or would you spend a similar amount of money on a set of handlebars? Personally, I would go the handlebars because I think they're going to make a bigger difference to my riding experience. But you could disagree, or maybe you've already got the fancy carbon handlebars and now you want to upgrade to that. So there's definitely a place for it, and there's lots of brands out there that make lots of high-end components that are absolutely worth it if you've got the money for it. So I'm not trying to talk down on any of this stuff. I'm just trying to say, if we're talking cost effectiveness, the things on the board here that we've mentioned in this video might not be the best things to buy just yet. So with all of that being said, are there any of these parts that you're considering upgrading to, or maybe something that you've already bought here that you think that people still should buy and is absolutely worth it? Well, let us know in the comment section down below. I know that lots of people that watch these videos go and check out that comment section after. So if we can teach them, that would be really helpful. Otherwise, I'm going to say thanks for watching and we'll see you in the next video. See you guys.